Well, hey there, my name's Luke, and you're listening to the Good Folks Doing Good Work podcast, a podcast where I interview folks all throughout the coffee supply circle about the good they're trying to bring into the world and hopefully remind you to keep bringing good things into this world in your context. Let's get into this week's podcast. Well, today we're going to be talking about buying and selling a coffee roasting company. Now, it's important that you know this. I am not a lawyer, and neither is my guest today, but we're going to be sharing information, and it's not prescriptive, but descriptive of our experience navigating some of these conversations on both sides of the transaction of buying and selling coffee roasting businesses. It is worth it to hire a lawyer to represent you, who's got your back, somebody who goes through these types of transactions regularly. So hire a lawyer. That's the disclaimer. Today, I have the privilege of chatting with Jack Wilt, who is the co-owner of Maiden Coffee, based in Neptune, New Jersey. He's a Q grader, the host of the Actually Good Coffee podcast, a husband, father, and someone who's gone through the process of buying a coffee roasting business. Recently, he released a podcast where he shared about how another business had approached he and his co-owner, who's also his wife, about potentially acquiring their business. This is why I wanted to have Jack on the podcast, to chat about his experience as a buyer of a coffee roasting company, but also what his experience was like on the other side of the transaction and what he's learned along the way. Jack, welcome to the Good Folks podcast.
Thanks for having me, Luke. I really appreciate it.
You've made your way through the food and bev industry, starting as a busser, doing some barback, bartending, doing some management. So you're familiar with how hard the food and bev space is. What made you want to buy a coffee roaster?
Yeah, I think for me, I grew up and found out I had celiac disease by some like freak accident when I was in high school. I was in Model UN, and there was like a trip that we took out to Boston, and there's like this big dance at the end, and I did this one dance move where it's called like threading the needle when you grab your leg and jump over it. Ooh. And I did it, but like I had a compound fracture in my leg. It was like a tib-fib fracture. And it was like, when we went to the hospital, the doctor was like, "Did you get like in a skiing accident or like a car accident?" And I was like, "No, I was doing a dance move."
Just ripping on the dance floor.
Yeah, I just went too hard, I guess. And I was in, I did crew in high school, and I was, just really involved in sports and looking at colleges, and that kind of set me back a while because I had to get multiple surgeries for that. As I got older and, friends would kind of like go out for drinks and sort of like participate in these activities, it wasn't as easy for me. So I kind of stayed away from all like the regular vices, and coffee was the one that always stuck around for me. Seemed to never really escape anything that I was doing. And after working in the food and beverage industry for a while, I just wanted sort of something else. I was working late nights and started bartending, and it just got really pretty tiring for me. I went to school for audio engineering technology, so I was kind of looking to break into the music industry as well. Started DJing a little bit, and I just did not like the lifestyle at all. So coffee seemed like a more healthier route for me. Mm-hmm. And really, I bought a roaster off of Alibaba with a friend, and I had an electrician, a different friend, install like a 240 volt outlet in our apartment garage at the time, which was like totally illegal.
Totally in line with your lease agreement, I'm sure.
Yeah, totally. So we were just like roasting on this like little electric roaster, and like burning everything that we roasted. And everything I did was coffee roasting. So that's all I talked about. And I kind of hit a point where I was DJing and I got hooked into this like local group in my area, and they like wanted me to join, and they had this whole like plan they wanted me to follow. I was just like, I do not want to do this. I want to do coffee. And just from telling everybody that I'd met, I was coffee roasting and I'm looking to get like a commercial space potentially to sell. I ran into the previous owners of Maiden, and they were like, well, we're selling our roasting aspect of the business. So if you're interested, maybe you should apply for an SBA loan and just buy us out. So that's what I did.
Hey, really quickly, I have 3 things I want to share with you. Number 1, I run a consulting firm called Pomelo Coffee Consulting, and I only work with coffee roasters, and I help them with 3 things: their people, their processes, and their profit. Now, within Pomelo, I also run a cohort for owners, and then there's a separate one for leaders that work for coffee roasters. Now, they're structured similarly. There's some learning opportunities, there's some reading opportunities, there's some hot seat sections, and I got to tell you, it's been pretty amazing to see what's possible when a group of owners and leaders are sharing the things that they're facing, both the good things and the bad things, and providing some camaraderie and also a mirror to see that I'm not alone in this world, in this business, and there's people who are doing similar things, maybe have already done the things that I'm doing and that I'm facing. So if that sounds interesting to you and you want to find some other roasters and have some camaraderie with them, you can go to my website, pomelocoffeeconsulting.com, go to the Junto tab. There's a tab at the top of my website, and you can learn more and see if you're a good fit for that. Lastly, I wrote a book. It's called The Owner's Manual, A Guide to Sustaining a Coffee Roaster. And really it fleshes out the framework that I use when I work with clients, the core 7 that is. And if that's something that sounds interesting to you, you can go to my website. There's a tab at the top that says book, and you can snag yourself a copy. All right, back to the show. So coffee just kind of jumped into your life and never left.
Yeah, like I think it was just always there. And, like everything that I tried to do, I just didn't really feel passionate about. I thought it would be very interesting. And then you get on the other side of it and it's like, oh, this is kind of it. Mm-hmm. And coffee was very grounding for me always. So no pun intended. I always came back to it, and it was like meditative almost.
Yeah, that makes total sense. So you said you were in Model UN. What was that like? Were you like hoping to go into some type of politics, or was it just for fun in high school?
Yeah, no, it was just for fun. It was more so like an easy way to travel and sort of like go to different cities in the area. Like I said, I was on the crew team in high school, so I had not much of a social life at all. And the fact that I could take time away and go to a different city for a weekend was really enticing for me. And then I got to travel as much as I wanted after, because I stopped doing crew after that injury. And
wild. So this year I've had an influx of folks who've reached out who are either interested in buying a coffee roasting business or looking to sell theirs, which is really, that's the reason why I wanted to have you on. So I wanted to start at the beginning. You mentioned you would run into the owners of Maiden and they were like, hey, you want to buy my business? What drew you to the business outside of them just saying, do you want it?
At the time, I had some like pretty real life moments happen to me early on. My father passed away when I was 19. And then I had a sister who was going through chemo at the time. And I just kind of felt lost, like I had no real direction. And I was like kind of just trying everything, so coffee for me, it was like something that was in our family, and this business opportunity came about, and it just kind of felt like a gut feeling that I should be doing this regardless of how it worked out. Actually, everybody told me not to do it. Like I met with multiple people, a friend's father who is an accountant for a law firm, like the most conservative job you could ever have. So obviously he's playing it safe when he's telling me about, maybe not do this. But I didn't have a father. So I kind of just didn't want to listen to anyone. And I was like, I want to do this because I think it's a good idea. And even if it's not, I'm going to make it a good idea.
Sure.
And now looking back on it, I still can't really tell whether it was a good idea or not financially, but from where I'm at now, I would say it's definitely where I want to be. And
Yeah.
it's kind of one of those situations where you just make it work no matter what.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. That makes total sense. So when you were going through the process of buying the business, did you hire anybody to guide you through the due diligence process, or was that all on your own?
yeah, I got lucky because I had a family friend who was a lawyer, and he gave me some guidance with that. He didn't specialize in that type of law, but he definitely was a good sounding board to sort of go off of because it was three owners of the business, so I had to deal with like this
Oh,
three-headed
wow.
dragon,
Yeah.
of telling me, different reasons why I should do it and what to focus on, and so it was a lot to deal with, and having that was helpful. But I definitely had to learn as I went, even in dealing with the bank that I worked with to acquire the loan. They told me on three separate occasions that they were not going to fund me,
Hmm.
and that it was not a good idea. Like, they don't feel confident in me, and I just would be on the phone with them for hours. Like, the
Hmm.
9 months leading up to the actual acquisition, I was lucky enough to have this job at the time that gave me the flexibility to focus on this. So every day would just kind of be, I'm on call waiting for the bank to let me know what I need to do and what I need to send them over and what sort of information I need to collect along the way. And I guess in the back of my mind, I always justified it by saying, even if this doesn't work out, it's great life experience for anything else that I'd want to get
100%.
into. So that was sort of like my guidance throughout the entire process. It's like, even if this doesn't work out, it's good to know how to deal with this.
So what did you tell the bank that convinced them to give you the money?
I think the first time I was like, I quit my job. Like, I put everything into this. There's nothing I
Great
can.
start. It's a
Yeah.
good start.
I was like, I just kind of like lied.
Yeah.
But it's I don't know anybody else's experience with dealing with the bank. This is only my own. So I'm glad you made that comment in the beginning of this. But it was like very back and forth. Like, from the beginning, they're like, we're going to do this. We feel very confident in you. Like, let's get this done. And then the next day, it's like I'm talking to a different person, even though it was the same person that I was talking to. And they're like, yeah, we just do not feel confident at all. And I think I got lucky because the amount that was needed was relatively low in terms of
Sure.
SBA loans. So they probably put me with somebody that was a little bit newer, like we were around the
Sure.
same age.
Yeah.
And he was also kind of new to this. So he probably didn't have a good feel for things as well. Yeah, but so one time I just said, like, I've, I quit my job. What do I, like, tell me what I need to do in order to get this done, and I will do it. And there's nothing. And I was like, well, what about this? What about this? What about this? Like, what if I get a recommendation letter from the internship I worked
Yeah.
at a year ago from
Yeah.
my boss that I was shadowing? And he's like, yeah, I guess that could help. I was like, okay, I'll do that. One time he was like, you have no roasting experience. And I was like, that's not true. I have this roaster I bought off of Alibaba that I can get all these roast logs that I have if I just get a USB drive and upload them all and send them over to
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
And I got that, sent them over, and it was just this constant back and forth of, well, we need to see this. And I just figured out a way to do it.
I want to isolate this and highlight this for folks because I think that something you said that's really important is you kept saying, what do I have to do? And then you were coming up with ideas, because a lot of times we go to these institutions that are supposed to have the answers and they don't have the answers for us. And sometimes we have to get creative. And so I want to just say, good for you for recognizing that I'm not going to take no for an answer. And you were being a jerk about it. You're just really wanting to know, like, what do I have to do? I'll send you roast logs. I'll, sort it out for you guys. You kept asking, what about this? It's good.
Thanks.
One of the interesting things about the last year of fielding some of these conversations with folks on both sides of the transaction of buying and selling a business is oftentimes they'll come to me, specifically people who want to buy a business. They'll come to me and they'll be surprised at the timeline I give them. And I think they think it's like buying something off Amazon where you Google, you search it and then it pops up and then you can compare and contrast and see the reviews and see similar products. And then you can make a purchase and it shows up at your door. And the timeline that I always give people is it's going to be a couple of months of due diligence. You gotta kind of date each other for a while. Then there's going to be some due diligence. And then it's going to take a while for you to get to an agreement on a dollar amount or a deal structure. So you should probably lock in for at least anywhere from 6 to 9, maybe even 12 months for buying a business, depending on the size of it. And so I'm curious, you said something about a 9-month lead up to the acquisition. What was the timeline on your side of things from the moment they said you should buy us to the moment you had a signed agreement?
It started in May of 2022, where we initiated this process of beginning the talks, and it went until January of 2023 when the contract was finally signed at the bank.
So about 10 months, somewhere down there?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Makes sense. And during that process, what took the longest for you?
Anything that was out of my control. Like, there are things that I was able to get done quicker than others, whether it was find written reports or reach out to people and get information from them, or reach out to the owners and get information from them. Really, the thing that took the longest was just waiting. And that was really the hardest part for me, because I'm still very impatient in a lot of ways. And I remember, like, I was going crazy from just all of the anxiety of what they were going to say. So I picked up pickleball at the time, and I would play like 8 hours a day. Like, I would just wake up at 6 or 7 a.m. and go to like the local pickleball courts and like have my phone on nearby and wait to get the alerts from the bank. And as soon as I saw the email would come in, I would just up and leave and go home and figure out what it was I needed to do next. So I think for me personally, the most difficult part was just finding other things to distract myself when there was really nothing that you could do at the time. Yeah.
And so you had mentioned that there was 3 different owners in the business at the time. What was it like dealing with 3 individuals, or did you do everything through their lawyer?
They did not have a lawyer. I was the only one with the lawyer. And like I said, it was like a family friend. So he was doing it pro bono.
Nice.
It was just like, we're close. So, I think that probably made it, I don't know if that would make it more difficult or less difficult if they had a lawyer, to be honest with you. But the one way that I did get lucky is that they just wanted to get out. They were done.
Interesting. Yeah.
3 owners, having to run a business and checking in with 3 people before you could really decide on anything is very difficult from what I hear, especially from them too. So, that was like, it's funny because it's like everything they disagreed on, except for the fact that they all said, like, don't have a business partner when you do this, like, just do it yourself, which is funny because my wife is my business partner. But that's, I think, a little different.
Yeah.
But, Yeah, that was like the one thing that they agreed on. And funny enough, I had a friend that I was going to purchase this with originally, but
Oh, okay.
he sort of backed out once the talks really got pretty serious.
Was there tension between the sellers?
Yes.
Did you know about that prior?
No, I didn't. I
Yeah.
I knew one of them just from working in town. I didn't know the extent of it.
Hmm.
So going through the process was pretty eye-opening in the sense of it really made it clear that I did not want to get involved with a business partner at any point, and that
Yeah.
probably helped me make my decision when we got into talks about selling Maiden as well, because I don't
Yeah.
think it would have worked out well.
Yeah, that makes sense. When you were talking about the tension between the owners, I was thinking about a long time ago. I used to listen to this podcast. It was on real estate, and there was a guest once on this podcast, and he was talking about how people typically don't sell real estate unless there's a reason to sell it. And I was thinking about the same thing in relation to a business. And what he was referring to was there's some type of problem. Like it's either not making you money anymore, or it's costing you more than you had anticipated, or you no longer live in that area, or some sort of life circumstance happened to you that changed your situation. And now it's owning that piece of property is not really worth it for you anymore. And I was thinking about it in relation to businesses. They're not all that different either. You know, you get into something with a partner that you're excited to maybe work with, and then something happens along the way where I don't know if I want to work with this person anymore. There's all sorts of different deal structures: cash at close, some type of an earnout, seller rollover equity. How did you structure the deal when you were buying Maiden?
Yeah, I had to put 15% down,
Yeah.
and and it was just all up front. Like they get
Yeah.
paid out
Okay.
all up front. I think we had like 10 grand going to escrow at the time,
Okay.
just as like a little safety net, just in case. The benefit that I had again is that these guys were so eager to sell that they just wanted to get it done as quickly as possible. And
Mm.
I probably, made out a little bit better with the sale of the business in
Sure.
terms of just how much it cost. Um, but also too, it did cause a lot of friction along the way.
Hmm.
So in terms of the actual sale, it was very seamless, just all cash up front, me and the bank, obviously, in combination. And there was a requirement that I had to be trained for 3 months too,
Oh.
in order for the bank to feel confident in paying them. And the training was pretty lax, as you can imagine, because there was no sort of structure. So they were just
And
like,
they also didn't want to be there.
yeah, they were like, as long as we don't have to deal with it and you can just
Yeah.
say it. So they were like, I learned how to roast, which I did. Like it was very helpful.
Yeah.
But, looking back on it now, it's like, man, I did that. There's no way to train somebody how to do this in 3 months. Like, how is this possible? So everything was very lax. It's, it's unfortunate in that maybe, I could have learned a bit more going through this process. And I definitely did get a good grasp on this process as well, and just sort of expectations as well. Like when I talk to people about getting an SBA loan and I tell them 9 months, they're like, that is quick compared to what
Mm.
I've gone through or what I've
Sure.
experienced. And, part of it is probably just because I was so available because of the position that I was in at the time, that I was
Yeah.
able to be just on top of it, just getting it done as quickly as possible. And also to the fact that this was a smaller opportunity, and
Hmm.
there wasn't much to the business in terms of like complexity, right?
Hmm.
Everything was very, very simple. It was like, 90% of the revenue comes from wholesale clients, 10% comes from retail. We don't really have a sales process. It's just we get customers through word of mouth,
Hmm.
and based off of baristas that leave the cafes and go start their own jobs. This is our website. It is basically nothing. We write down our orders that we receive from
Oh
our
my.
clients each week. Yeah, like so.
Sounds awful.
Yeah, I mean, and at the time I had no idea, but then now it's amazing how much time you can free up just by simplifying some and
Yeah.
automating some of these things. So that I got lucky with, because I will say, and maybe I shouldn't say lucky, but like that was nice to go through, because one, I had to learn how to streamline all of these processes,
Mhm.
and two, it was a very simple foundation. Like it was
Mhm.
very analog how they did everything. So taking on the role of three owners was feasible, and
Right.
at the time, right?
Yeah.
So now as it's growing, okay, we need more employees. We need to have certain people
Mhm.
in specific roles and departments at some point.
Mhm.
But at the time, it was like, oh, okay, this is possible, taking on the role of three people. I don't need, really other people doing this for now.
I was listening to someone speak about how digital transformation, or agencies that used to specialize in digital transformation, are kind of going out of business, because most businesses have been forced to some extent in the last 5-10 years to become advanced technologically. And there's still this little window in coffee where there is businesses that are still doing pen and paper for all of their orders. Just shoot me an email and I'll put this order in, or call me on the phone and we'll get your coffee to you, which is crazy.
Yeah.
But I think, that's an opportunity there for folks to recognize that if you buy a roaster that has some amount of volume, there is technology advancements that you can put into place that automatically make the thing make more money
Mm,
very quickly.
mm. Yeah, absolutely. Like it's almost charming in a way, because that's sort of like some of, and maybe it's because I'm small and we're not even doing 1 million a year in revenue, but it's like I definitely see some instances where it could work against your favor, right? Because I just saw this one coffee company post an ad that was totally AI, and they were just getting destroyed in the comment section,
Yeah.
like just
Yeah.
annihilated. And then I see another coffee company make this ad, and it's like these guys just cracking jokes the entire time. And me and my head roaster, we were talking about it today, we're like, these guys are so funny. And they just did a deal with Minor Figures, like the
Sure. Yeah.
oat milk brand. And it's like, man, yes, there is like absolutely a benefit to implementing some of these new technological
Hmm.
advancements, but there is a point where you're sort of like crossing the line, whereas
Totally.
maybe it's art, right? Like maybe it's your advertising and like your
Hmm.
branding. I don't know. I can't say for sure, but where do you find find the line, right? So
Yeah.
it's interesting. It's an interesting thing to see play out, because we're right in the middle of it now.
Just to tie up the knot in terms of how the deal went for you when you purchased Maiden, it was 50% up front and then cash at close. You needed to spend 3 months training with them. That was before close. That was after close.
Yeah, so I should say this. Everything was paid out like on the closing day when everything was signed.
Right.
Yeah. And then the training had to finalize before we closed. So the training
Got it.
started in, I think, September, October, ended in
Yeah.
early January, and then I
Yeah.
believe the closing date was either the 15th or the 21st of
Hmm.
January. I don't remember for certain, but yeah, yeah, that
Pretty
was.
quick, pretty quick turnaround all in all, especially since the bank made you jump through so many hoops. But I think it's really important to highlight that the bank will ask you to do some stuff like get training for 3 months or come up with some roast curves. So I think that's super helpful for folks.
Yeah.
Any other weird stuff that the bank asked you for that didn't make sense to you at the time?
Yeah, I mean, I think for people that would be watching this, there is a huge stress on the work that you do and why that matters. And I think, a lot of people might feel lost in their current job, but I can't stress the fact of how I worked so many jobs. Like I was doing custom carpentry at the time as well on top of my bartending job when I first found out that I could purchase Maiden. And the crossover between all of the different types of jobs that I've had absolutely had an effect. And I
Yeah.
found ways to connect that to what I was doing now. Like even this job that I had at a local venue, music venue at the time, getting that recommendation letter from my boss was one of the things that the bank needed in order to feel confident and loaning out this money. And that was such a niche thing that, you can make an argument for, but they saw that I didn't have any management experience, and, being able to show that I do, I have experience of managing people and paying out talent or whatever the specific job is. There absolutely is crossover, even if it's not as direct
Hmm.
as you might think.
That's super practical for folks. I was just speaking with somebody who they just started their own business and they're crushing it. And they're in green coffee, and they were like discrediting themselves as they were in tandem with the things that they were talking about that they had achieved and done even in the last 6 months. They started discrediting themselves. And I think that for folks that are interested in buying a business, it's important to remember that those things that might not seem like they cross over, don't discredit yourself for those things. Those things do correlate. That honestly, probably the Model UN was probably a part of some of your thinking, and your time in crew and all of that stuff is compounding. And so it's really important to not discredit yourself and to think through, wait, where have I had experience managing people, budgets, structure, reorganizing something? It's really important. Thanks for highlighting that.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I can't stress that enough.
Hmm.
Honestly, it's like I'd say the more exposure you get to different fields of work, even if it's at like, what if it's even whatever it is, if it's like a landscaping or working as
Hmm.
a waiter or bartender or whatever it is, any job that, like, I went to a all boys Catholic high school, and a lot of the kids there came from wealth, and
Hmm.
they thought they were like above these jobs, right?
Hmm.
But it's like they're missing out on so many
Yep.
practical
Yep.
skills when the rubber finally meets the road. And I
Yep.
see that play out in their lives now.
Yeah.
And it's sad, but again, it's like that's the decision that you made preemptively. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, that's the repercussions of that now. So
Yeah.
I can't stress it enough, the effect that these types of jobs have
Hmm.
had on my life for the better.
Yeah. Being scrappy, bussing tables, bar back in construction, all those things, they teach you something if you're paying attention.
Yeah, yeah, I couldn't agree more.
Let's imagine there's somebody who is working a corporate job right now, or maybe they work for a roaster in production, let's say, and they have decided they're not going to start their own roasting company, but they want to buy a roasting company. What would you say to them to prepare them for the journey they're about to embark on?
I would tell them not to do it, honestly, if they said that, because it's such a difficult task
Yeah.
that it might, like, it's such a hard thing to do,
Yeah.
and not everybody can do that. And I think
Hmm.
for me, like, I was in a situation that not many other people can find themselves in either, where
Hmm.
it's like my back was sort of up against a wall, and I've found that, like, I always work best in those situations where it's like this is the only way out. The only way out
Hmm.
is through. And I don't. I think that's hard. I don't think I would have been able to do it if the circumstances that I were going through.
We're different.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say, like, be as honest as possible with yourself, and
Yeah.
whatever you're expecting, how hard it's going to be a lot harder.
Yeah.
And just understand that, like, you really have to work at this, and it's going to take longer than you expect, and it will probably be one of the hardest things that you do.
Hmm.
But if you feel that you're up for it, then I would say go for it, because
Yeah.
why not? Right. Like I think I was dating my now wife at the time, and I was like living with roommates, and I didn't really have much to lose, honestly. I didn't have a college degree either, so that played into it as well, where, these were sort of I think Warren Buffett says this, where he's like, there's like 20 opportunities in your life that you really can be life-changing if you just decide correctly. And for me, that was one of them, where I could say, well, I either do this and I pursue it wholeheartedly and drop everything else, or I leave it and I never touch coffee again. And I wasn't at the point in my life where I didn't want to be working in coffee. And I still am not. And I may not ever get there. So I think it was just like the stars were just kind of aligned in that situation. Yeah. And again, it was a matter of, diving headfirst into the situation, surrounding myself with it, really, really taking it on wholeheartedly, and sort of just dropping everything else and saying, like, I'm either going to do this or I'm not. I guess like not many other people do that, which is why entrepreneurship it's a rare thing to find in people, right? Like people always want to glamorize it and make it seem like it's this great thing. It's not. It's really, really challenging, and most of the time it's really, really hard. But when it's good, it's great.
What I'm hearing you say is, because initially you were like, you shouldn't do it. But what I'm hearing you say is, if you do choose to, and you really think that this is what I'm supposed to do, this is one of those 20 conversations or decisions that are pivotal for your career and your life, expect a lot of pain, expect it to take longer and cost more than you had anticipated, and plan to commit everything to it.
That is what I'm saying. And I guess to me, if somebody said that to me 4 years ago, I'd be like, why would I do that? That doesn't make sense. Like I want to go hang out with my friends and like work at this bar and make, I don't even know, close to 6 figures a year, where I can like, not have to work too hard. Right. But now looking back on it, it's like, I'm really grateful that I had the motivation to do that sort of thing. And what I would say is like, what's your goal, right? Like, what are you trying to do? Are you trying to make money? Are you trying to do you just love coffee? If you just love coffee that much, then sure, do it, right? Like then that's a great opportunity to really learn a lot about coffee. Yeah. If you want to make money, do not do that, because there are other ways you can make money that are less taxing and also just a more traditional route. Like if you get a degree in this specific field, you can absolutely make $300,000 a year. It might take a little bit, but that's what I would say. The first thing I would ask is just what are you trying to do? And is this the best route that you can go to get there? Or is there a better opportunity elsewhere?
Yeah. I think that's a really, really strong word and strong advice for folks. Let's flip the conversation on its head. And now someone is approaching you to buy your business. They call you up one day and they say, Jack, I want to buy your business. What's the first thing you're going to ask them to see if they're a tire kicker or not?
The first thing that I would do is get a bilateral NDA signed. And the reason I say bilateral, so there's bilateral and there's unilateral. And again, I know you said this already, but talk to an attorney first.
Yeah,
obviously.
Please. Yeah. It's worth the money.
Yeah. So get a bilateral NDA, which means both parties can't disclose the information, rather than a unilateral, which is just the one. And set that up first thing, so that you know they're taking it serious. It's like with your real estate analogy, right? Most landlords will say, send me an LOI, right, to really show that you're actually interested in this sort of thing. So that would be the first step. The second one would probably say like let's get together and actually talk about this, and maybe we'll both bring our lawyers and give me an idea of like what you're looking for, because I think some people might get excited and go into it expecting one thing, but be pretty disappointed and just waste their time at that point.
Yeah.
And as a small business owner, your time is the most valuable asset
Yep.
that you cannot afford to lose.
Yep.
So I try to get everything out of the way as quickly as possible and say like, is this like really what you want to do? Like, what's your idea? What will probably happen is they'll want to see reports, they'll want to see P&L sheets, they'll want to see specifics. That's why you get an NDA signed. So they're going to need some information on their part, and rightfully so. But again, I can't say this confidently enough, but it really, it's gonna, part of it is gonna come down to you and the position that you're in your career. Like, are you at a point where you want to sell, or do you want to stay in it for a while? Like, how long do you want to work in this? Are you like, what position are you at in your career? So absolutely get some sort of contract in place that shows that we can't disclose anything outside of the conversations that we're having. If that gets done, then you can send over some information to give them an idea of what your business is worth. Let them give you some type of offer. It doesn't have to be, very strict, but just how are they valuing your company?
Yeah.
Right?
Where are we at?
Right. Is it fair market value? Is it book value? Right. If it's book value, then that's not great, depending on what type of, whatever.
Can you define those for folks?
Sure. Book value, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, is assets minus liabilities or assets minus debts. Market value and fair market value are where it gets a little bit tricky for me, but it seems that fair market value is how you base your business off of the other types of businesses in your niche around you. And then just market value is how you value your business. I think it's like in the future, 5 years out from now. Because if it's an example where it's a larger company that is a lot more advanced than you are in your niche, and them acquiring you can jumpstart that growth by a few years, then that's how you should be valuing the business.
Right.
Because it would take you 5 years to get to that point, but it's really only going to take them 1 or 2, because they have all these structures in place that can just speed this process up, right? They have a sales team, they have a distribution aspect to their business, they have a tech department, they have training, educational aspects of their business. So that's a powerful way that you can value your business.
So you're saying before we really even start talking about a deal, NDAs both direction, and then we see are we in the same ballpark?
Absolutely. Have an NDA signed before you even start talks. Like let's if you're really serious about this, let's get this signed, and then we can begin this process. Under no circumstance should you begin that process before that's signed.
Yeah. So. Yeah. So now that you've gone through the process of both buying and being potentially acquired, and just so everyone's clear, they haven't been acquired and they're not going to be acquired from my understanding. So we're not jeopardizing anything here. But from your perspective, now that you've gone through both sides of that conversation, are you running your business any differently now that you know what information a buyer is going to ask for, so that you can be able to not inflate the value, but get the value for your business should a real buyer come to you and actually come to an agreement with you?
Yeah, that's a really good question, actually. I would say that if anything, it's just made our goals a lot more clear than they were before. Like, we've always had strategies to our growth and what we want to focus on. And it's always been looked at as this sort of thing as like, we're going to get to it. We'll get there. Let's do this really cool promo that we've been thinking about for a while that'll like look cool on social media and like might get us some follows. But when rubber meets the road and you start really talking about your business and looking at it in a healthy way where you're emotionally disconnected from it, right? That's when you start to understand like, okay, what is it that our clients are actually looking for? Where we can actually provide them value in? Like, where are their pain points? What is it that they can utilize that we can offer them that can boost their growth or their infrastructure?
Yeah.
And that is what can separate you from your competition and can help your value as a company. Like I think Dave Ramsey said this. I was listening to a podcast that he did, but it's like, what type of business are you actually in, right? Like you're not really in the coffee business. When you're in the coffee business, you're in the unique value business, right? Like what is it? Is it different types of single origin coffees that makes you unique? That's something that we focus on. Is it the fact that you own a farm in Colombia that you source directly from, you're partners with them? Is it because you're just exclusively Ethiopian coffee? Like what is it exactly that you guys offer that can make you different from other coffee roasters? That's in any business, regardless of what it is. And for me, it's been very eye-opening to see that, okay, yes, we need to focus on these particulars because those are the real numbers that they're going to be looking at. But how do we convert what we do onto paper so that it makes sense for a potential buyer?
Yeah.
And I think it's just shifted our priorities. And now it's really about let's figure out what it is that we can do to help our clients and be a service to them, where we're not just selling them coffee, we can help them along the way. Like we can be a voice for them, right? Like we're a team. We're not just like trying to make a quick buck off of you, right? Like your future success is our future success. So I want you guys to do well, and then we do well as well. Like that's part of it too, right? It's not like this I don't know. I think some people can make it out to seem like malicious, like, if you're
zero sum or
like if you're an entrepreneur, if you benefit from capitalism in some way, it's like you're just out to take advantage of people. But it's like, no, it's actually the opposite. When somebody does well that you work with, you do well also.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's the system that we live in. So that doesn't mean we have to be predatory in how we live in it, but let's work together and let's all take care of each other. We can do that.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. I think the clarity of goals as a result of going through this process is really, really helpful for folks. And because one of the things that I talk about with folks who go through this process, if you're getting acquired by somebody who knows and who has purchased other businesses, they're going to ask you for a data room typically. And it's exactly what it sounds like, except for it's digital. It's not an actual physical room. It's a data room. It has all of the information about your business in one place so that due diligence can go quicker and can be efficient. And so that the acquirer doesn't have to necessarily spend that much time asking you for this report and that report and this other report. It's a data room where that information lives. And so I think that having just at the very least clarity of goal of what are we actually doing, and also distilling down your purpose as a business, super helpful. Because at the end of the day, even if you never sell the business, that's only going to help you, which is also going to help your buyers, or your not your business buyers, but the people who buy your coffee.
Absolutely. And I read the first chapter of your book, but you mentioned this in your first chapter, that one sheet that you have where it's like you describe your offerings and like what sets, it's like a resume, right? It's like, what is it that separates your company? Like, why should a coffee shop work with you? And that that converts everywhere. It's like,
Mhm.
it's what you can give to your grandmother when she asks you what you do for work. And it's what
Yeah.
you give to a potential buyer because it makes it simple. It's like, oh, this is
Mhm.
why we're interested in these guys.
Mhm.
This is why we want to potentially buy them.
Is there any questions you had wished you asked the three previous owners of Maiden before purchasing that you found out afterwards? You're like, I should have asked them this, and I'm learning this on the fly.
I think I would focus more on things outside of just what you can learn within the business,
Mhm.
like any additional insight that they have, because they own a coffee shop as well. So
Mm.
like that's a really key part of coffee roasting as well,
Mhm.
because again, like we were saying, coffee roasters and coffee shops work hand in hand. So
Mhm.
understanding that a lot more would have been very helpful.
Yeah.
Um, that's where they started. That's like their background. So being able to be exposed to that would have been very helpful. And even in knowing what sort of metrics they're tracking at their
Yeah.
coffee shop, how do they dial in their espresso, what makes them unique, right? Like
Mhm.
what was their goal with their coffee shop that's led them to so much success, because it's still a very successful coffee shop in our area. That would be something that I would like to have focused on more. And, we still have a relationship, which I'm
Yeah.
grateful for, but it's obviously not the same relationship that you have with someone when you're going through this process, because you're
Yeah.
essentially married to each other.
Yeah.
And you see them almost every day. So, and that's something that you can kind of just like throw in there, as
Yeah.
a side comment, and just say like, hey, so what's going on with the coffee shop? Like, what is it? Why did you guys do it? Why? What sets you guys apart?
Okay. So, just in summary, as I'm thinking through this on both sides of the conversation, we've talked about an attorney multiple times. Good to have one of those. Probably should have one of those anyway. Before you start conversations, whether you're buying or selling, get a bilateral NDA. During the due diligence process, ask for historical data that might be sort of tangential, not necessarily directly connected to the business. But as you mentioned, if they own cafes or what has that experience been like? Seek to have a clarity of goal for what you're actually doing beyond just we sell coffee or we roast coffee. Clarify those goals.
Hmm.
Am I missing anything?
I think that there's one other thing that I should probably mention if you are
Yeah.
selling your company. Not that you really have a say in this sort of thing, but if they are acquiring you, it's good to know like what is their goals? Like what are they
Mm-hmm.
trying to do? Do they have an exit strategy? That's a very big one that you see a lot in the tech world nowadays, where if there's any sort of like acquisition hire, what are their goals? Are they trying to sell
Mm-hmm.
in a few years? Are they just focus on growth? Because you have to understand what your agreement is going to be with them. If you
Mm-hmm.
have an employment agreement, whether it's for two
A
years,
sentence.
yeah, right. And then it's like you have a non-compete afterwards for 50 years or whatever they're going to
Yeah.
try to do. Like figure out what it is that they want to do. Because
Mm-hmm.
if they want to, maybe they want to sell in 5 years, and then that's
Yeah.
that's pretty great for you, right? Because you kind of get in while it's getting good, and then once they sell, it's like again, I don't know that process, but that sounds like a
Mm-hmm.
pretty good deal to me. Find out if you're going to have any sort of ownership in what they're doing. That was one thing that that like I tried to get to the point of talking about in my
Mm-hmm.
process, where it's like you know know your worth, and
Mm-hmm.
know what value you're bringing to the table, and feel confident in what you've been able to do so far, because it's intimidating when you're going up
Yep.
against these guys,
Yep.
like these big dogs that have been doing it forever.
Yeah.
And you want it's they've done it
Mm-hmm.
probably a lot, so they
Mm-hmm.
they get it, right? Like they
Yeah.
they they know how to handle themselves in this situation. So just know your worth, and talk
Mm-hmm.
to as many people as possible that have experience in this sort of thing, regardless of what industry it is, just so you can get that confidence. Because that was my biggest struggle with this sort of
Mm-hmm.
thing. Like I,
Yeah.
I have a difficult time with, like appreciating what I've done because I always want to do more. And I feel like I'm never getting to that point where I'm like, I can take a deep breath. But those are the times when it matters, and that's why you need to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So, kind of put it back on them and be like, what are you going to do in the future?
Yeah.
Like, what are your plans? What do you want to do with my company? Like, what is
Yeah.
it about my company that you really like and is attractive to you, and how it can bring value to your business? And that will just provide a lot more clarity in the
Yeah.
situation.
Yeah. I think that's a really, really strong advice to folks. It's reminded me of something that I've been learning in the last couple of years, is that when you're trying to help another party, sometimes you have to ask probative questions that make you feel a little uncomfortable. And asking those questions that might make you feel uncomfortable, what are you going to do with my business after you acquire my business? That is going to potentially help them. And it's also going to help you too to determine whether or not you're a good fit to stick around for 2 years. Is that something you want? Because if you don't ask that question and then you get further down the road, you've just wasted each other's time. So I think that's really helpful to ask those hard questions in the moment. Don't feel uncomfortable about it. Get the clarity now.
Yeah, feel uncomfortable about it now so you don't
Yeah.
feel 10 times more uncomfortable a few years from now.
When it gets more serious.
Yeah, right. Then that's bad.
Yeah. Okay, I want to ask you 2 questions about Maiden, and then we'll wrap it up. Number 1, tell me about your refill program. How does that work?
So one of the things that I saw in the industry was that there's a lot of like buzzwords, obviously, that sound great but don't really mean that much. One of them is like biodegradable and compostable packaging. This might be a controversial topic, but from what I've seen in my experience is that it's really not actually biodegradable or compostable. It's just breaking down past a certain point,
Yeah.
and so they can consider it that. So what I've found is that the best alternative to a packaging like plastic free packaging or biodegradable or compostable is just to remove it completely and sort
Yeah.
of revert back to this packaging of tin cans.
Yeah.
So we partnered with a coffee shop near our area called Sun and Waves in Spring Lake, New Jersey. And we offer a refill program where you can go and buy a single origin coffee that we sell, and you can come back to the coffee shop and refill it, and you get a $10 discount on that can. So this is something that we feel pretty passionate about because it's an area where it seems to cover a lot of ground, right? It's not just affecting the earth, it's also affecting your health. And it also can help create this sense of community within your shop because,
Totally. Yeah.
you're having people come back, you're having this rapport that you're building with them as well. And Sun and Waves is a really great partner that we've found in the industry, and we're really happy to be working with them on that.
That's super cool. So they have to go to the Sun and Waves to do the refill program.
Yes. So, we're actually in the process of finding a new roasting space right now. Eventually, we are going to get to the point where we offer that as well at our location. It's just where we are right now. It's really challenging to be able to offer that service.
Totally.
So
Yeah.
hopefully within the next 6 months, we offer that at our location as well. But the goal is to sort of like build up where we offer these sorts of things so that it's not just in one specific location that you have to go back to.
Very cool. I like that. And I think that I don't understand why we don't do more of that. And even just like on the wholesale side of things, like I understand buckets are not super fun to move, but if you're delivering somewhere, it's okay to do a bucket exchange. Let's save on some plastic, and that's an extra $1.15 per 5-pound bag that you could just put in your pocket.
Yeah. I think logistically it's difficult, but
Yeah.
this has been something where we've found that we've been kind of able to like circumvent that a bit.
Mm-hmm.
And, we're going to see how it goes. And if we need to make any changes, we will. But again, this is something that we feel pretty passionate about. One of our core values is simplistic sustainability. So just making it as simple and easy for people to understand as possible.
I love that. Simplistic sustainability. That's so good. Okay, last one. How do people buy coffee from you? It's obviously on your website. If can they go there if they want to set up a wholesale account, or how do they get in touch with y'all?
Yeah, so if you're interested in working with us, you can visit our website, maidencoffee.com. We have a wholesale tab where you can fill out your information, let us know what it is about you that might be a good partner with us. We offer all of our coffees online at a retail price. Most of our business is wholesale. That's our bread and butter. We work best in that environment. We are not a
Mm-hmm.
coffee shop, so I like to say that like all of our partners are our coffee shops,
Yeah.
and that's our focus. So we definitely thrive in that environment. But if you're just looking to try our coffee out and maybe get a subscription, then feel free to visit our website.
Well, Jack, it's been just such a treat to chat with you and hear about what it was like to buy a business and navigate that process and argue with the bank and convince them to give you money. And we probably could have talked a bit more about what that's like getting funding. So maybe we'll add that for a future podcast. But thank you for being open about that journey and about what it's like when someone is seriously looking into acquiring you. So it's really helpful for folks out there. And so I just want to say thank you for being transparent and honest.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me on and just creating this platform to talk about, because it's something that's been really difficult to find in terms of just resources that
Yeah.
can be helpful if you're in this situation. So it's really awesome to be able to speak on my own personal experience, and hopefully that could be some benefit to somebody else.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks, Jack. As always, be well. It's Luke again. I'm back one last time with two questions. Number one, did you learn anything from that conversation? Number two, did you make a new connection, or perhaps there's a new question as a result of that conversation? If either of those two things are true, I'd love to hear about it. Go to my website, pomelocoffeeconsulting.com, hit the contact tab. There's a form down there. I'd love to hear what connections you made, what questions were answered, or what new questions you might have. Let's chat about it. As always, be well.